all the wait and go ahead and get things started. All right. And since we had a few more people join, just wanted to poll: do you guys have the PowerPoint or no? Because the webinar got shut down. Hello to whoever just joined.
Hi, it's Marissa. I'm the Baltimore office.
Hello, Marissa. Thank you for calling from the Baltimore office. How are you guys doing over there? How's the weather?
Good. Same as UhhsifohComedy.
You think so? Just checking. All right. Well, we can go ahead and get started now. And then as people continue to dial in, we'll just try and catch them up all at the end. So, as you guys may or may not know, my name is Steven UhhsifohComedy. I'm the Covenant Season Champion for the Northeast, and presiding over at Ernst & Young. So, thank you guys again for joining. For those of you that have the PowerPoint, feel free to follow along. Those of you who don't, please reach out to someone, and I think we can get that shared around here. So we just have a few things that we're just going to touch on because we know people are busy, and we also have a practice update from none other than Mr. Oshikoya himself. So he'll be speaking a little bit later on. So I just want to go on and move on to slide 3 here for a quick Covenant Season slide 4 for the Covenant Season update. So as you guys know, today is Groundhog Day, which is a very, very pivotal point in hunting season. Mr. Phil, the groundhog's name, he came out today and he saw his shadow. So he predicts that it's going to be another 6 weeks of winter. So for those of you in the hunting season game, it's going to be a long one. However, there is a little bit of conflict because Mr. Groundhog Phil has been off his game for the past couple of years, and all the other groundhogs in Boston and New York have said that spring is going to be coming shorter. So I'm going to go with the majority on this one and say that spring is coming soon, but Phil is still an OG, so we got to respect, what he's saying there. So moving on to slide 4 and seeing how this rolls into situationships. So as you guys may know, well, first, is there any questions on the groundhog update? I know that it may have caught a little people off guard, but just wanted to answer any questions there. None? All right, cool. All right, cool.
Did you do any hands-on inspection with UhhsifohComedy, or is this just inquiry only?
On the groundhog? No, we actually outsourced that. We outsourced that to a third party. They run it every year for the past 107 years. They used to eat the groundhogs, though, after he came out, so we had to go with a different company. True story. So yeah, we're doing things that don't involve animal cruelty at the moment. But thank you for that question. Thank you for that. Next, moving on to situationship on slide 5. So, situationships, as you guys may have read a little bit about in the Covenant Season annual update that came out a few months ago. If you have not read that, please reach out to a neighbor. And situationships is, the reason why we're having this call. And it's a very trying time, Everyone wants to know, what is a situationship? How do I know if I'm in one? All right, and a situationship is that gray area in between where you're not really with someone, but you're actually dating someone, and it's trying to play both sides of commitment, non-commitment, which can be very tricky. One thing that I found that was interesting from my studies is situationships are very common. 1 out of 3 people will experience a situationship in their lifetime. 1 out of 3. That's because the other 2 live in very rural areas and they just live with their cousins. That's a different story though. The situations are very common. How do you know if you're in one? Well, there's a few telltale signs, and we'll discuss those a little bit more in depth. But one sign is, does this person not introduce you to any of their friends? Big sign there. Friends are a big part of people's lives. And if you've been seeing someone, or if you have been, quote unquote, talking to someone for, extended period of time, you would think at a certain point you would eventually either meet their friends or people they consider to be close to them. So it's progression, so that they're opening you and letting them into their lives. So I think that's a first big sign there. Two, what kind of activities do you guys do together? If you guys have been doing the same Netflix and chill for the past 6 months, and he doesn't have Netflix nor a couch, I would say that you're probably in a situationship that's going to go nowhere fast. Second sign there. Third sign, and this one, is not so much here or there, is, what is the communication like? Is there like any real connection besides just like, hey, where are you? Be there in 15 downstairs. If that's all it is, then maybe it's maybe towards the end. But if you guys are really finding that you guys are connecting on a more intimate level, discussing a lot more of like your own personal beliefs, goals in life, then like you guys can kind of see that trajectory going into something more into a relationship, and even a great friendship, and everyone likes friends, so that's again something that we'll discuss a little bit later there. So just on the beginning part there, is there any questions? No? Awesome. So now I'd like to turn it over to a leading practice director for this area, Mr. Kanyan Oshikoya. Mr. Kanyan Oshikoya, or Mr. O, would you like to introduce yourself and just talk a little bit about situationships and take some of the people on the call here through, some of the big things coming up like February 14th, situationships to relationships. Turn it over to you, Kanyan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Uhhsifo. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kanyan Oshikoya. I am the leading practice specialist in the area of situationships. So just a brief update. It's really important to know that situationships are very common, and you've seen situationships in everyday life, even though you may not have recognized them. If I would like to point you to the most recent example, is everyone aware of Meek Mill and Nicki Minaj's split? So what you have to understand about that situation was, to Meek Mill, they were in a relationship. To Nicki Minaj, it was just a situationship until it was time for her to release her new album. So that is the difference between a situationship and a relationship. A relationship is give and take. A situationship is take and take. All right? So now we move on to the next part, where we're going to be talking about what does February the 14th mean for you. All right? So in a relationship, February the 14th is a very special day. It means a lot to a lot of different people. It's where you're obligated to show love to the one that you love. In a situationship, however, it can mean anything. So, for me, I'm in a situationship, and the 14th of February for me means that's the day that Frederick Douglass was born. For those of you who may not know, Frederick Douglass was a very big abolitionist born in Maryland. Shout out to Maryland. And if you don't celebrate Black History Month, you can also highlight Carl Bernstein, who was the investigative reporter who blew wide open the Watergate scandal. So the 14th can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people. And how you interpret that means whether you should take this situationship to a relationship. Which brings me to my next section. Situationships to relationships. So you have to understand, is it right for you? Meaning, are you enjoying the place where you're at? Are you getting everything you need to get from this person? Is there reciprocation? If your answer is none of these to these posed questions, then guess what? You're in a situationship, and it will remain that way. All right. If he isn't taking you, oh yes, please.
If the situationship needs to end, do you do it before Valentine's Day?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
If you need to end a situationship, does it end before Valentine's Day?
That's a very good question. So it all depends on if you want to extend this situationship. All right. So what a lot of leading researchers are saying in the field is that if you want to postpone or if you want to continue this relationship, you have to find a way to postpone it past the 14th. So in your case, if you want to continue the situationship but not have it turn into a relationship, you have to find a way to circumvent the 14th of February. A leading technique is to start an argument on the 12th of February, be angry through the 13th and the 14th, and then go back and make up on the 15th. That way you have dodged the most detrimental day to all situationships, which is Valentine's Day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Another technique would be to go ghost. Some people have family emergencies, but for some people, they don't have the fortitude to do that, so they just end the situationship right there before it gets to that date. Any other questions? All right, I'm moving on to the next bullet point, which is signs you should make the next step. Here are some signs. Do you enjoy this person's company? Number one. As Steven said, have they met your friends? Number two. Because it's very important to know, and also how did they introduce you to their friends? Are you the homie? Are you the friend? Are you someone they know? Are you a coworker? How have they introduced you to these people? And that makes all the difference in whether you should take the next step or not. It also depends on if you want to take the next step, but the next person isn't willing to, what are things that you could do to make them take that next step? If they have a birthday or anything important coming up, you could shout them out on social media as your MCM, as your WCW, as someone that you love having in your life, someone that you never thought you'd be able to live without, etc., etc. Put them in a corner. All right. And this leads to the next step, signs you should bail. If you're in a situationship and someone does that technique to you, then you technically have to bail because they've made it public on an open forum that you guys are something. It hasn't possibly been defined yet, but you guys are something. And you have to clear that up because, as we know in cuffing season, as Steven stated before, you have to have a roster. If you have a roster and maybe it's not even your star player that does something like this, and they go for a dunk when they could have easily just gone for the quiet layup, you need to address this before your roster finds out. All right? And last but not least, summer is approaching. It's warmer weather. People are going to be out more, which increases the chances of you being seen by someone you know with this person. It may be someone from your roster, someone from work, things of that nature. People are not staying in anymore. Netflix and chill is not a reasonable hangout anymore because the sun has come out and the weather is warm. So, those are... Yes.
Yeah, see what I mean, buddy. And I think I have a question that maybe some other people want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
We can talk about, like, when did you know that you were in a situationship? And, how did you, navigate that?
That's a very good question because that's something that a lot of people don't ask themselves. There's always a pivotal turning point when you're in a relationship, or when you're in a situationship, I'm sorry. I realized I was in a situationship when she started dropping my government on social media. She wasn't necessarily adding me on Twitter. She wasn't she wasn't tagging me on Facebook, but she was dropping my government name. So that's when I knew that the situationship had started to bud.
And if I'm not mistaken, you've been going in the situationship for going on 2 years now. What do you think has been the best way to maintain that? I think that's been a difficult thing for people to maintain a situationship for so long.
Yeah, it's after the winter period, you get to the very legendary status of having a situationship go over the course of a year. It's kind of like having winter all year round. It's not something that's happened before unless you live in Greenland. So what I did was a series of certain techniques. I would create arguments at certain times. I would create excuses. I mean, I'm in a very peculiar situation that allows me to do this because it's long distance. So every time we feel the need to get close, I could just drop it and say, you know what, I would love to do this, but we're too far away. For those of you who don't have the long distance option, you can say you're too committed to work. that always works, and you can say that you're career focused. A lot of times that brings people more to you because you have goals set in mind and they would like to be part of your bigger picture. So those are just some techniques that I use.
All right, thank you.
Oh,
Do we have any questions just on that part before we move on? Okay. So next.
I have a quick question. Is there a way to kind of play some breadcrumbs if you want to turn into a relationship?
excellent. That's the old Hansel and Gretel theme. I like that. So there are some breadcrumbs you could drop because a lot of people don't read into subtlety, and that's an art that's lost, right? So what are certain things that you could do to gear someone into thinking that they would like a relationship with you, not the other way around, because it has to be the other person's idea? One, if you can endear yourself to this person's friends, you will guarantee yourself a relationship with this person, even if the person may not feel it themselves. Stephen, could you expand on this? Because I know you have significant experience in this subject.
Yep. So, just to go into a little bit more, if you want to place a little bit of breadcrumbs, one thing that you have to do is first not scare the person off. Because, as we talked about before, you need to understand, is it right for you, and where are they? Okay? So, when you're meeting their friends for the first time, you always want to put the best foot forward, but still try and be at least a little bit. Keep a mystery about you when the person wants to learn more. Because no one really wants to be with anyone that is too needy or too available. That doesn't really attract you to anyone. But, doing like little thoughtful things here and there, just kind of keep, spark their interest that there's more to you besides just, the casual hangout. That usually helps, lead breadcrumbs and lead you along into, a relationship, if that's, where you want to go with it.
There are also a couple other things you could do. You could if you guys ever take pictures together, make sure you're looking your best and the pictures always come out amazing. Because then, what will their friends say? You guys look so cute together. Thus, sowing a seed inadvertently. So, but I mean, I'm a big, oh, I'm sorry, you can go ahead.
No, you can continue because I was going to transition to the next topic.
Oh yeah, I was just saying, one big thing you could do is if you ever meet their friends, to endear yourself to them. Even if it's a bunch of guys, talk about guy stuff, maybe talk about football. You want to get to the point where it's like, hey, I haven't seen so-and-so around in a while. How are they doing? Or, yo, that chick is mad cool. Or this dude is this, is that. You want to create topics. You want to be the topic of conversation even when you're not in the room, thus pushing yourself to that relationship phase. And that's a subtle breadcrumb that you drop, not for them, but for their friends. And I'd switch it back over to Stephen.
All right. So the next thing we just talked about here, some cover season success stories. I don't know if anyone else on the line would like to share, but I think being the cover season champion, I would share myself. This cover season, I've actually transitioned from a situationship into a relationship. And you hold the applause there. Everything's going well. And kind of what we've been discussing, left a little bit of breadcrumbs along the way. Met the friends, was very endearing. And, shared more than just, casual hangout. Talked about goals, where we wanted to be. Everything started to look great. And that's where I'm at. So, it's February 14th, shout out to Frederick Douglass, but this is going to be Valentine's Day for me. It's going to be Valentine's Day. Anybody else with cover season success stories or, maybe some horror stories, I think that always just lets people know where they can and can't go. All right, cool. We'll just move on then. Want to be mindful of everyone's time. So now we're kind of at the end here, so, just want to thank everybody for your participation. And any last questions about cover season, situationship, You know, feel free to ask them away now. Don't be shy.
So I just called in. I was wondering if there's going to be a replay of this at all.
Yeah, so there's actually going to, we're going to send out the slide deck. So, reach out if you did not get the slide deck. We probably will not have another call unless there's, a big interest for that. But, definitely we'll make sure that we get the materials around so people can, refresh on that and, reach out if they have any more questions. But thank you for that question.
Stephen, when you send the slide deck out, will you also be sending out the charge code?
Yeah, I'll be sending out the charge code. It'll go under admin. So it already has the admin or just sick day. Because, we have unlimited of those. So just charge us for one of those.
But it's under service line learning, isn't it?
Yep, it's also, definitely service line learning. That's what we're going to do. Just put under service line learning. That's what we're going to do. And also make sure you update your goals for, professional development and, technical skills. Because I think this is a big part of being an adult, being able to maintain relationships. And, because let's be honest, some of your cuffing season partners are your clients. So let's be honest here. We'll maintain those. People are still dialing in, but unfortunately the call has come to an end. If there's any more questions.
Oh, wait, I got one question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep, I can hear you.
What if your situationship partner is one of your coworkers? How do you go about that?
So the question is, what if your situationship partner is, one of your coworkers? But first, kind of want to understand, how closely do you work with this person? Is it like you guys are on the same team? Then, that's going to be a little bit more tricky, and we can go into that. If it's just like someone you see around the office, then, that one you have a little bit more leeway. So if your situationship partner is someone that you work with, there's a few things that you need to do. One, you need to separate, your outside life from work. You don't want those two to mix, because once those happen, then it becomes a lot more sticky for you to be able to move around. Then you're bringing those problems in, or if there's not any problems, and, things have become more than they need to be because you're always going to see this person, right? Right. So that needs to be established up front. Two, when you guys are around everyone else, try and play it casual as possible. Remember, you don't want to sell the idea to other people that you're in a relationship when you guys aren't, because then other people are going to be like, hey, you guys dating, and then this other person will be like, yeah, we're dating you, and you're going to think to yourself, no, we're not, and then February 14th then becomes Valentine's Day, and you have to do something. So try and keep that, separate as much as possible unless you guys aren't on the same team. That's what I would recommend there. Colin, I don't know if you have any other points on that, but that's the general go-to there.
Yeah, just going off of what you said, it's always important that, one, if you're choosing to enter a situationship with a coworker, you have to be prepared for the potential that there might be an Armageddon. All right? So you have a couple of options. You can turn it into a relationship, which, depending on what you want to do, that may or may not be the best thing for you. Or two, you can say, you can also circumvent the issue is that maybe you're having too much to do at work, or that you're getting stress from outside sources, or you feel as though you're not where you need to be in life and that you need to improve and that you might need to take a step back on certain things, right? So those are some options, but you have to also know that since you work with this person, she can try to corroborate your story. And if your story doesn't add up, then you're back at square one.
Yeah. So we have another question in, and feel free to also ping me questions as well. That also works. So the next question is, when should you introduce someone that you're in a situationship with to your mom? First question, easiest way to answer that is you don't. Because again, hey, situationship, there's, you're balancing a line of commitment and non-commitment. Once you do that, you're pretty much telling this person, like, run away as fast as possible. So unless you're really ready for that next step in that commitment to make that person, a relationship, then I would say keep moms out of this. Keep moms out of this. And if you do, then it's going to come to that awkward moment when you say, hey, everybody, this is my... And Connie already said earlier that those are some of the situations that you want to avoid. You have to introduce that person as something other than a friend or, a workout buddy or, hey, the person that lives below me. Any other questions there? So another question we got in, is there an emergency hotline available now that we have, February 14th or Valentine's Day coming up? So to answer that, Connie and myself are available during this time because, it can be hectic. You don't know, you might find yourself February 13th, like, hey, wow, I messed up and I kind of need to keep this person around for a little bit longer. What should I do? Do I need to do February 14th? Or should I just let it ride out in this argument and see what happens on February 15th, a.k.a. Valentine's Day? So, yes, you can reach out to us. Our information should also be available to you guys there, so make sure you guys do that. Another question. How many Netflix and chill dates can one acceptable do before you're required to go on a real date? Tyler, I'll let you answer that one. So the question is, how many Netflix and chill dates are acceptable before you're required to go on a real date?
So that's a very good question. Depending on how you twerk the situation, you can go from either 10 to an infinite number, right? But there are also some factors that inhibit this. You can't always Netflix and chill in the summer. You can in the winter because it's cold, no one wants to go anywhere, and one person is already making the arduous journey over to someone's place. All right? As the weather gets warmer, people want to be outside more. You can't come to someone on a warm Friday night and say, let's Netflix and chill. So what I would suggest is to capitalize on that early on during the winter months. You can squeeze in as many as possible. If the person wants to go out, you can always make it something slight, like let's go get some and pizza, which means we're going there to get a pizza. We may eat it there, we may not. Bring it right back, and then continue the Netflix and chill. So that way you kind of have gone out, but not in the sense that they were going for it. And also, if you're doing this, if you want to go out, stay away from happy hours. Happy hours are places where you will be seen, conversations will be had, and situations will arise. And you do not want any of those.
Yeah. Trying to stay away from places where you'll see a lot of your friends. That obscure bar that no one ever goes to, you go there. They have great specials. That one movie theater that only has, 2 movies showing gum on the seat, that's where you go. Say it's a vintage look that you're into. So the next question we have is, would you recommend going into a situationship with a long-time friend? So this question here is, you kind of have to do your research as to, how well do you know this person to a long-time friend? So like, hey, we kind of just see each other in passing, and, we can talk to each other and say hi kind of thing, then, maybe that's something you explore. But it's like, hey, I know this person, history, and, like, we're really close, we're pretty much like, best friend kind of thing, then that one might be a little tricky, because the thing that you don't want to lose, what we said earlier, is a friendship. Because everyone needs a friend, and we're all friends before we're all, more than friends. Hopefully, at some point,
And an important.
I can get cloudy there.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted to add in an important factor to judge whether you should or not is, as Steven said, how well do you know this person? If it's someone that you maybe went to high school with and yada, 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 and since that time you have both grown up, then yes, that is definitely an opportunity that I would say you should take, because you've been away for a long time and there are things to discover about you. So now you have topics of interest, you have points that you could butt rest or improve upon, or generally show your transformation. If this person has been your best friend, or you guys have been really close for like the past 2 or 3 years, there's really, I would say no in this situation, because if it hasn't happened yet, then forcing it at that point either means that you're going to be pile driven into the friend zone, or this person's going to really want nothing to do with you anymore. Either way, the friendship has been altered in a certain way. So if you haven't seen the person in a while, yeah, and also it all depends, like, what do you have to lose? If you're just Facebook friends, shit, go for it. At the end of the day, you'll just say happy birthday once a year. Other than that, if you actually do like this person or you enjoy their company, I would say stay away from the situationship, because that means that it could ultimately end in not being a relationship, meaning that it was all for naught. Good question, though.
All right. So the next question we have is a situation here. So it comes in, this girl and I have been tagging each other in memes all the time. What does that mean? What should I do? Connie, would you like to take this one?
So this is interesting because it depends what kind of memes they've been. Have they been Pepe the Frog memes? Because we all know that those can turn into anything, which would be the go-to meme for you to want. If it's just topical memes and it hasn't gone to any of the innuendo-ish memes, then I would say maybe keep it where it is. Or if you're feeling frisky, just shoot a meme her way that's a little bit suggestive. You want to plant the seed, not buy the plant.
That's powerful words right there. That's a gem that you only get from a leading specialist here. Some people are down out here, so we'll just go through this last question here. We have a question: any ghosting technique for those that are trying to, get out of the situationship? I know Connie mentioned one, to starting up a fight. You can buy yourself a few days. But a complete ghosting technique, you can say you're moving, actually move, or just say you move and just, do whatever you got to do to fall off the radar. Remove this person from all your social media. Just don't respond. Or post a photo on social media of you with someone else. And that usually helps out.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, so I don't think there's any more questions at this time. So I want to thank you guys all for joining this this call. And, you guys do your best out there. Do your best.
Thank you very much, Stephen.
Yep, thank you very much for joining, Kanye.
Have a good day, everyone.